All right, so this brings us to today, 2024, and what you see in front of your, what you see on the screen, placed in front of myself, is the iPad. After doing a lot of work, traditionally, be it comic book artwork, painting, acrylic with watercolor, gouache, oils, all that, I bought an iPad. And what let's see what kind of when let's see, when did I get this iPad? This is a model number, serial number. I'm trying to find the year on this thing, and I don't recall where that is, unfortunately. But I know this is it's an iPad Pro 12.9 inch screen, and I honestly don't remember what year it is, but it's pretty old. It's like the second generation. So it was around that time that I discovered the iPad and discovered Procreate. So as I open up Procreate here, I'm just going to kind of swipe all the way down to the bottom. I might have some of the early paintings there. Of course I do not. But another key moment in my comic book creation process was designing the characters. There aren't, let's see, I think I've cleared them off. I've since cleared them off here, but let's see if I can. Oh, here's one. Here's Azrith. So Azrith, Lion Warrior, if you recall, was one of the characters that I started out with a webcomic, did a print comic of it, but eventually would bring the character back as a painting, as a character, part of my Realm Ethereal universe, and that's where I'm at now. So the Realm Ethereal has been going for about 4 or 5 years now, I think, and it initially started with a series of illustrations rather than like sequential story artwork. It was all me coming up with my own characters. I wanted something that was kind of to do with like gods, but like kind of cosmic. Had to do with some fantasy, maybe a little bit of sci-fi, but really, I was inspired by a lot of the stuff I saw on like ArtStation, and just thought, wow, those paintings, I would love to paint like that. I was, went in a complete opposite direction and kind of took a break from comic books and decided to get into painting, digital painting. And so what I did is I designed and created these characters that would eventually, I'm going to pull this off the screen from the right here, right side. All the paintings in here were done digitally in a certain, well, the early versions of these characters are not in here, but Ohm, who is this character, Oda, who is that character, Ina, who this character here, and Core were the 4 main characters that I initially sketched up and wanted to design first, rather than create a story to put them in the context of doing an illustration that is like a comic book artwork. I decided to make character studies, and these studies turned into paintings. And as I worked in Procreate, which some of these were Procreate, some of these were eventually like done in Photoshop, it all amounts to being able to work digitally. And so I taught myself how to work on the iPad, taught myself how to work using a Wacom tablet, using Photoshop to paint, taught myself all about gradient maps. Well, some of these were actually done in color in Procreate, some were done in grayscale in Photoshop, and then I gradient mapped them to color. The underlying idea, though, was I would first design these characters to eventually bring them into my comic book world, and I'm going to show you that here. So the digital productivity that came from this iPad is what is initially responsible for the comic book artwork that I'm doing in the Realm Ethereal. So this right here, there's this page, Kasia, running, and something's core blasting behind her. kind of making her very distressed. This was all artwork done in Procreate, and I learned that I enjoyed aspects of being able to just get right to the drawing. I didn't have paper, I didn't have pencil, I didn't have pen. I basically had a stylus. I had several brushes, pens that I could use, and I could call them up quickly. So I became really captivated by working digitally. I mean, to me, drawing is drawing, but working digitally, I could draw wherever I want, and in fact, the notion of drawing whatever I want, whenever I wanted, had to do more with being when I had to travel. It was so convenient to do that, obviously. And this thing flies very easily. It travels very easily. It packs very easily. And I took my concept paintings of, Ohm, and created a universe of these characters. And so for the first time, I was really designing characters before just dreaming up of an action or a story sequence. So again, the paintings we saw in here, like this character Ohm, existed first as this concept painting that I then fleshed out and expanded for this book. But these characters, they first started out as these concept paintings, and then I would, craft the stories and write a subplot and write, basic scripts for this, such that, all of this would eventually come to be something that I would put together in comic book format. There's the printed page. Here's the digital artwork. We'll go to that 2-page spread here in a second. Turn this sideways. Let's get that load. I think this is a little dark as well. Is it? Nope, it's full light. Okay, it must be just the camera. Hopefully this shoots well. So yeah, there's this digital artwork here. There's all the layers. Hand drawn. Print edition. Lettered with story. And this I do release on my website as pages that as I complete them, I put them up. People can read the pages. This is not my full-time job, so I do have other work that I do. So this book is being completed as I upload pages as I finish them. But the book is slowly, coming finally to an end. So I'm proud to say that I am actually going to complete this series here. I've even created these individual print editions, which we've seen before, right? But when it comes to the artwork, one of the things that, as far as my process and my progress, I really came to enjoy digital artwork, and I would often, these comic books here that I have. I should just leave this here. They're a combination of digital, and then I go back to some of the work is traditional as well. I found myself, like, here's an example. Some stuff is actual penciled artwork, like you can see right here. And then some of it is digital, as you can see right here. There's my iPad. And so I ultimately kind of wrestled with, like, well, I love digital aspects of making art, but I also like the feel of traditional artwork on artboards. So I took aspects of being able to work digitally, and I would print out blue lines to then ink over, because it seems like what happens is when you work digitally, you have this safety net that unless your file gets corrupt, or your computer dies and you can't access your artwork, you really have you can't make any mistakes. I mean, you can make a mistake, but you can easily fix them. And I was trying to capture that here. Like, I could print out a blue line. But then if I wanted to change something, that was hard to do because it was already printed out as a blue line, you know, on actual paper. And so you'll see the series jumps around between, you know, several pages that are digital and several that are actual ink on paper that I did. And yeah, these are some of the later pages here, but all throughout, I would say, like these pages here, there are pages in between, like before this one or after this one, that I did digitally. And that had to do with if I was traveling, I would bring my iPad with me, and I would, you know, I'd work on the road if I could. And then there were times when, like, I was home and I'm like, I really love print. I really love the feel of ink on paper. Kind of maintaining that craft of being able to work with just one brush, or well, several brushes, but like there's only like one interface here. It's a single sheet of paper. It's a drawing implement, whether that's a brush or a pen, and boom, it doesn't get any simpler. Like you would think digital art is like would make things faster, but it really doesn't. It just means that you have more ways to either fix things up or more ways to like tweak things and endlessly tweak things. So here is original artwork. I love drawing hair. And here's more original artwork on paper. So this entire series is kind of, it jumps back and forth. And, you know, again, there are two lessons here I've learned. One is creating my characters beforehand, designing them again, which I never really did back in the 80s or the 90s. But again, here's this character add-on. Again, this character started out, let's see if I can find him in here, as an original painting. I designed the character first, then I would bring it into the comic book. You can see it right here in ink on paper. Same thing here. This is a character called Jelena, or maybe that's Yelena. The J has a Y sound to it. Ethereal Guard. Here she is. Winged, kind of fairy. Let's turn the page upside down here. You can have a better view of the character. So again, designing the characters first, like these character concept paintings, which were actually, they were fully realized paintings. They weren't just like concept color roughs. But again, creating the characters first, and then bringing them into and then including them in the world that I'm building in the comic book series. So, you know, up to this point, I was pretty much just tossing or waffling back and forth, like, do I do digital? Do I do it traditional? And then I did this piece here the other day, or not the other day. It seems like it was the other day, but closer toward, I would say maybe the end of the first quarter of 2024. And I just totally drew this without any kind of trying to pre-plan or sketch something digitally. I just drew the damn thing. And it was so liberating that I just used a couple of pens, put the marks down. I didn't try to adjust anything. It is what it is. It came out. And granted, it's fantasy, but like there was something just so liberating and felt good to just put marks down, and it was done. Different types of textures I'm messing around with. I'm using a pen, a brush pen. It's pencil on paper, inked, and that's what I've done moving forward here as I record this video, July 2024. The remainder of the series, I am going to be drawing it entirely ink on paper, Bristol board. Just simply because I've decided that this is a much faster way, even if I can't get to it as easily and I can't travel with 11x17 boards. And I'm also not saying that my inking digitally is going to go away, because I know myself too well that I will probably flip-flop again. But right now, this is where it's at for me. Inking on paper. The last few pages here, I'm just really happy with how the artwork has turned out. Having a blast drawing these pages, just knocking them out. And here's one of the pages coming toward the end of this story. And that's the other thing too. I've learned that I need to finish these stories. I need to get this arc completed, and it will be completed. So if you watch this far, and I think I'm not sure if this will be one entire video, because if I do it, that's going to be like over 2.5 hours long, I think. Maybe I'll chunk it out into several segments. The overall thing, my process looking back, you know, I'm 50 now, and when I started when I was 12, is just having fun with what I'm doing, working toward a goal of trying to improve my work as I continue to create my own product. And right now I'm like, I love doing my independent comic. I've never worked professionally in the sense that I got hired to do something for like a mainstream publisher, but I've kind of dipped my toes with smaller groups. But you know, for what it's worth, it's kind of like, I don't know, I guess that's just where I'm at, and I'm just doing my comic books and still having fun, you know, whether now at 50, then at 10 or 12 years old. So if you love the artwork that you're doing, just keep doing it. I'm going to keep doing it no matter what, because this stuff is awesome. It's fun. I love comic books, and I'm just going to keep making this artwork, doing the best I can, because what else am I going to do? Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this here. You can check out my comic book online on my website, reneeariola.com. If you can't remember that, you can go to artofverday.com. That'll just reroute you to the original URL. And then you can check out my comic book. I'm hoping to, once I get this all compiled together, get it printed, maybe make a hardcover. I don't know if I should kickstart this stuff. I tried before. I tried to kickstart that hardcover book. It failed. It didn't work. But I'm just going to keep making this, and then hopefully you guys and gals like it, and we'll just keep drawing. And you too, if you're an artist, just keep drawing, keep doing it. This is the long game here. This is the long game.